So welcome everybody to our first faculty and staff professional development activity for the school year. I would like to introduce Marguerite Goulet. She's going to present on how to be a better online instructor. Marguerite.
Thanks, Jamie. All right, let's share it there. And okay. So, welcome to you all. Thank you for taking the time out from your busy schedule to be here. The reason why I wanted to offer this presentation is that I had attended a Chronicle of Higher Education presentation about this topic in 2019, and it just resonated with me. So I wanted to provide an opportunity for us to explore ways to improve upon what we may already be doing. Since so many courses are online now, I thought I would synthesize the information and use it to provide a vehicle for sharing so that we can learn from each other. And several of the things that I will be speaking about, I learned from other faculty members in their presentations or just talking to them. So this presentation is an overview about ways to be a better online instructor. And truly, some of these topics can merit a standalone presentation. But I think the important thing is we care about our students and we want them to be successful. And there are a lot of ways to improve the learning experiences that we can do that are not daunting. It doesn't need to be a time-consuming effort, but there are little things we can do to bring ourselves and our humanity and authenticity into our online classes to increase the learning experience for students and also to improve our own satisfaction with our online teaching. So these are the learning outcomes describing practice essentials for online teaching, and also to discuss participant strategies for creating presence. So the intent of this presentation is to think more comprehensively about teaching online and connecting with our students. This is more crucial than ever before when we think about what our students and faculty contending with during a pandemic, which is really, this pandemic has heightened the need for physical distancing, but increased the need for social engagement and caring more than ever before. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time because we're just, we only have a half hour, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these next few slides. You can read the bullet points. And clearly, it is a given that enrollment in online programs is growing, and certainly COVID-19 has impacted that. We also know for some of our students, online programs may be the only option for them. And these are just some statistics about online growth. I would say the major point is that there's been exponential growth in online learning due to COVID-19. And I think we all realize that's going to continue to be the case during this pandemic and for the future. So this diagram is a modification of the community of inquiry theoretical framework that was developed by Garrison et al. In 2000. And it's a result of a seminal article based upon their research that provided different components of effective teaching and learning. And these are all good principles for whether we teach in person or online. And as you can see, the modified framework depicts 3 different presences of effective teaching and learning that result in deep learning depicted by the center. The first is the cognitive presence, and that's really the intellectual work that goes into creating and teaching effective classes with a lot of expertise and sound reasoning that you use for your classes. The second is the teaching presence, and that's the guidance we provide our students, the explanations, the advising, the feedback, the clarifications of misunderstandings, etc. The third is the social presence, which is a crucial component that's really often overlooked in online classes. And we certainly know that human beings are social creatures and that we learn better in community with other people. We learn from and with others. The social element is an interactive piece that may often be missing in online classes. And as you can see from this diagram, emotional presence is wrapped around the framework and shaped by the impactful book, The Spark of Learning, Energizing the College Classroom with the Science of Emotion by Sarah Rose Kavanaugh. Academic content often deliberately de-emphasizes the impact of emotional activity, or even acknowledgement for that matter that we have emotions. And I'm not going to go into this anymore due to time, other than to say online students often feel anxious and uncertain about their experiences in their online classes. And that anxiety really impacts their ability to engage and learn. So we want to recognize that emotions infuse everything so that we can deliberately impact our students' ability to engage and learn and really stay motivated when we attend to their needs as emotional beings and help them to feel more optimistic, more welcome by bridging the distance in online classes. And I know we see this a lot in introductory classes like UNIV 300, which is a course that nursing students take, but also some of our other students that take our allied health courses in the nursing program. And that's something I've seen. So early on, really trying to allay students' anxieties. They have anxieties about the learning management system. Am I going to be able to do this? And sometimes they think they're their own worst enemies. I've also seen it in other courses, like some students are deathly afraid of taking epidemiology because even that word scares them. Or they'll wait until the last minute to take healthcare policy because they're not interested in it and they kind of dread it. And I would imagine that for nursing research and statistics, you know, some of those courses are also the same. So what can we do to create social emotional presence? So I'm going to talk about that, kind of the principles and practices for shaping social emotional presence through the rest of the presentation. So technically online classes do not require you to be actively present. So think about teaching in person. When you walk into the room, your students are supposed to begin learning. That's not the case with online classes. You're not physically present in the online environment. There's no real-time interaction and guidance is missing since many of our courses are synchronous. So it's still possible to be present and engaged with students. So I have here first, send an email to students before classes start. And you know, before I used to do that, and then I started doing it. And then I started doing it again by attending a webinar that Tracy and Paula did in August, where they talked about sending an initial opening email. So each session, my opening email may be a little bit different, but like, for example, this session, I talked about the pandemic and explained that I'm very flexible with deadlines to let me know as soon as possible if you need more time, mentioned to review course announcements. And I also highlighted changes because we know from last session, some students still didn't get the fact that they need to use the advanced feature in Moodle replies. Open courses early. And we typically open 5 days early, and that's actually when I send my email to students. And provide a good opening course announcement, welcoming students, but also regular course announcements introduce topics, summarize key points, they remind students of deadlines, and they may answer questions that have come up via email. Also provide the calendar of assignments that helps to get students organized. And it helps them to know what's due. And then personally introduce yourself in a video in the About Us forum. Sharing about video about yourself helps students to know that you're a person. It helps them to get to know you better. Where do you live? About yourself, your family, your pets, former and current work experiences. And I also think it's very important to respond to students About Us forum posts, because that validates that they're important. And throughout all this is the opportunity to be positive right from day one. I personally respond to each student's post, or at least each group's post. A lot of times in my replies, I'll say hi or hello to the students. And I've noticed that that eases some tension, and they're starting to do it back to each other too. It's an opportunity to provide positive feedback about the post, but also modeling too what you're adding to the topic, modeling scholarly resources, and the length and depth of the reply post that you expect. And I find it's also an opportunity for emotion too, and thought-provoking questions, which can prompt critical thinking and reasoning. If students do reply to my questions, I always try to reply back to them and thank them for the replies, and also say, I may add something more. I think it's also very important to provide feedback as quickly as we can to students so that they can incorporate it into their next week's work, and providing positive and constructive feedback with examples. So all of this is personalizing your response to students. Also, we know from using Starfish, students really appreciate kudos. And I found since COVID-19, boy, is that really true, more than ever before. And I know we always have to issue flags, but we do have to be very careful how we word flags. I've seen students not be present in class, and I'll send a flag and they'll respond really quickly, but it doesn't always elicit a very positive response from a student. So that's something that I think we really all struggle with as faculty, is how to word those flags. And answer email questions and address issues promptly. More than ever before, I choose to keep my email open all day, and students really appreciate that. I also use a forum within one of my classes, my EPI class, so that I'm posting, because epidemiology is front and center with the pandemic, I'm posting updates about the pandemic, but also students can post relevant, reputable sources. So basically use every opportunity to communicate with students through the course, through email, through text, through phone, through Zoom. Next is be yourself. So how do we reclaim the teacher persona in online classes with no audio or minimal audio, facial expressions, etc.? Convey caring. Many, and that may mean sharing something personally. And I've started to do this, or I've been doing this for a while, is when I get a student email, I'll say to them, I'll close my email with something like, have a good day, or stay safe and well. Or I may say something about myself. If I just came in from a walk, I'll say, I hope your weather is as nice as mine is. Reaching out to students, checking in with them for students who are struggling physically and academically. I've done that a lot with reaching out to, because a number of our nursing students are also working nurses, and some of them have tested positive for COVID-19. So I'll make it a point to reach out to a student who I know has been COVID positive, not because I'm looking for when is you going to submit your assignment, just to see how they're doing, how they're feeling. And also many times they'll say, I should have my assignment starting to feel better, I should have my assignment in. Also, I had a student last session who had taken quite a bit of time off between, years off between when she was in the nursing program. And she posted her initial discussion late and then completely missed the week 2 discussion. And so we began this dialogue, which continued throughout the session. But what I learned is that this student was working 7 days a week, 3 different jobs. Her husband had his hours cut at work, and she had 3 sons, 2 of which were on the autism spectrum. She actually didn't think I would understand, so I replied to her, and this is where I shared something personally. I told her my daughter has 3 children on the autism spectrum, and I really do understand. And so after multiple phone calls, we developed a plan for her to complete the course. Now, I have to tell you, she did not think she could do it. And I really reinforced her because I saw the work she did submit was really good. And she was able to finish the course and feel more positive about moving on and taking her next course. I also think it's important to demonstrate passion for topics and issues you're passionate about. Give students permission to be passionate, such as social justice issues, equity, unrighteousness, etc. Also, if you've had personal experience, you can share that with students and connect with them. I had a student in policy last session who worked with the opioid addicted population and did, several of his discussion posts on various aspects of that. And we were able to connect. Often offer student meetings. And when I think of this, Jamie, I think of you walking on your treadmill during meetings. And it is okay to walk on a treadmill when you're meeting with a student on Zoom. They like to know that you're a person. And be human with students. So if you have an issue which may impact your ability to respond quickly to students, you can choose to tell them about the issue. You don't have to be specific, but you may say you have a family crisis. And students know that those things happen to the instructor too. Put yourself in their shoes. How does it feel to take an online class? In my introductory video, I make sure students know that I did my MSN online and I know what they're going through. Take a minute and imagine the experience of nursing or other students working full-time during a pandemic, or some of our BBA students are taking 18 to 21 credit hours. Students may have families to care for with aging moms, dads, they have children homeschooling, children with unique learning needs. They may be single mothers or fathers. They may work 3rd shift. They may be logging in late after they put their kids to bed when their mental energy may be diminished. They are logging on alone. When they're in a face-to-face classroom, they can ask an immediate question or nudge someone next to them. They may not have anyone to turn to, which is another one of the reasons why I leave my email open. We know that some of our students may be working 4 12-hour shifts, and we know 12 hours for a nurse is never 12 hours. They may be working that in the row, and this is the only time to ask a question. I always check my email before I go to bed and right when I wake up. Also, make sure the course content is appropriate. If it's too rigorous for the level of the course, it is unfair to students. And I know we have evolved with this over time with the nursing program. Because I remember when I first started, we had a lot of several weeks where we had assignments and discussions due in the same week. And we have certainly changed that. And I think it's critical more than ever before to provide flexibility for students, because they may have potential issues with work, sick children or parents, they may be sick themselves, and we certainly know about computer, internet, and connectivity issues. We can organize our course content intuitively. Demonstrate support of students by the design of the class to make sure that the course content is organized so that we can take the guesswork out of the course for our students. That also reduces their cognitive load in navigating the course. And that leaves the student resources for learning itself. And one of the things that we do with our curriculum committee is peer review of courses. And I've learned a lot just looking at other people's courses. Also, when you make major revisions, and we do this a lot too, is have other trusted colleagues look at your course, because something may be perfect, may make perfect sense in your head, but not to others. And even if you have a little bit of older children who are learning online, have children look at it, your course, and make sure it makes sense to them as well. Add visual appeal with white space, chunking, limit paragraph lengths. You don't have to be a professional video editor or a graphic designer. Use subheadings and embed meaningful visuals to make it easy on the eyes for students. And this does literally help students. Explain your expectations. And this can also be related to put yourself in your students' shoes. They cannot raise their hand and ask you a question or even detect your verbal cues. So remind yourself that students are working through activities and assignments by themselves. When I get maybe 2 students that are asking the same question, I look back and many times will make changes to try to avoid those questions because something isn't clear. You know, when you teach in person, you don't just hand out a piece of paper and say nothing about it, but we provide guidance for what we're looking for in our explanations. That can be within the course, via email, via rubrics, checklists, assignment instructions. Highlight what you're looking for. Scaffold learning activities. When we teach in person, we're demonstrating the work we ask students to do. We're talking about it, we're explaining, where we are, we're asking critical questions to show students how to connect key concepts in our mind, and we demonstrate how to think and work in our disciplines. It is certainly more of a challenge in an online asynchronous environment, but we want to provide opportunities for students to make steady progress from where they are to where we want them to be. Some ways you can scaffold learning is to get students to practice for lower level stakes. For example, I know in some of our classes where VoiceThread is new, we have them provide an introductory video using VoiceThread for lower level stakes before they're graded on high stake assignment using VoiceThread. Some practice with technology itself so they can level up to focusing on what they need to do for the final project. You can embed videos on using certain technologies. And making sure one assignment builds on the other, and we're building upon concepts in the course. We can provide examples. I think this is crucial in the online environment. When in person, you see students aren't getting it. You stop and explain the concept in a creative way. We find different ways when we're teaching in person to help students understand. Provide examples to help them to understand complex concepts more effectively, and use them in course instructions, answering questions in the Q&A forum, via email, and over the phone. Make class an inviting place to be. Convey positivity and optimism goes back to emotional presence. Right from the very beginning, help them to know they're welcome in class. And a lot of times in the About Us forum, I may respond to a student and say, I love to teach and I hope you enjoy this class as much as I enjoyed teaching it. Let them know that you're optimistic and confident that with the appropriate level of effort, they can learn and succeed. And we already talked about kudos. Keep everything positive, course announcements, feedback, comments and assignments and rubrics, encouraging messages throughout the session, and thank students for their contributions. Basically be a cheerleader, coach, and mentor. And commit to continuous improvement yourself by attending webinars, reading, partnering with instructional designers, partnering with colleagues as resources. And you're making the time to invest in yourself by attending this webinar. So I moved through these topics really quickly because we only have a half hour, but I wanted to give you time for you to share ideas and what's worked for you so that we can all benefit from your experience. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and provide just an opportunity to allow you to share, because I know I've learned things from each one of you that I've incorporated into my courses. Thank you.
Marguerite,
Hey,
I think,
Marguerite, this is Tracy. Oh, sorry, Jamie,
go
you
ahead. Go ahead, Tracy.
I'll be real quick. I was just going to mention the scaffolded learning is something I've been doing for a while. And excuse me. And I think if you actually tell the students what scaffolded learning is and explain it and point it out to them, they really start to feel accomplished. If you say, okay, you've learned this, do you remember doing this? And now let's build on that. So I do a lot of my courses like that with building blocks, but explaining and actually pointing it out to them gives them such a sense of accomplishment.
Oh, great. Tracy, thank you so much for sharing that. That's great.
And the point I was going to make was, I agree with your point about showing students that we're real people and being personal in emails. And I've had many students thank me for just being myself, and we've shared pictures of our cats and things like that. And I think that makes a difference, that they know we're just like them, you know, we're real.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree. They need to know that. And I think more than ever before they need that, because we are so, you know, in a sense, physically distanced from one another. So I think there, you know, some things we've learned from the pandemic, I hope continue to stay to make those connections with students. Thanks, Jamie, for that contribution.
I want to thank you, Marguerite, because as you all know, I'm new here, but I have found that reaching out to the students and really caring to support them and work with them, especially during the pandemic, not only has it been successful, they'll even email me if they know they're going to be a few minutes late, because they know that it's okay, and sharing all that, because it's one thing when people say it, but it's another to really do it and live it. So I appreciate all your comments.
You know, it's interesting because I just remember reading something in the Chronicle, and I saw the headline of the article, but it talked about how flexibility was there in the spring and summer, but not so much in the fall. And I thought, the numbers are going back up again. We need to stay flexible. You know, when students actually share with you what they're going through, like that one student last session, I mean, imagine working 7 days a week. No wonder she didn't have any time to do her coursework. You know, and she was, and you know, I think those of us who taught through the pandemic know, sometimes students are so overwhelmed, they really need you to step in and say, let's develop this plan. What if you submit this by Sunday night and it's already, you know, 2 weeks late, and then you can submit the, you know, and that's what this particular student needed, was somebody to really come up with a plan for her. And I'm like, I see your work. You do beautiful work. But she just was like, and I'm hoping she does well and continues to move on, because I could tell the doubt, self-doubt in her voice. And it was like, wow, you know, she doesn't think she can do this, but she can do it. Anything else?
I think one of the things that students really appreciate, and you did mention this, Marguerite, especially if during this pandemic, when you hear that a student is positive, but even not that, I think students really appreciate being cared for as an individual and not just someone who is handing in assignments in your class. And as a student, we recently had a student who had some physical problems and health problems and issues. And I wasn't teaching the class, but I heard about it because of my role here. And I just sent her an email of support and said, you know, we're thinking about you and what can we do for you and stuff. And it was, I don't know, I didn't think it was any big deal. And then I get back this email from her where she was just so effusive in her thanks. Thank you for taking the time to write to me, and da 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 da. And I was almost embarrassed by the way that she was so, how she was reacting, because I thought, well, no big deal. This is what we do. But she was so surprised by it. And I just think that we just need to have a whole, we're nurses, most of us, not all of us, but most of us are nurses, and we're used to a holistic view of the individual. And it's the same thing with a student. I mean, the students need caring, just like, people who are having health conditions. So I just think it's important to have that. And for those who have taken online classes elsewhere, I'm not saying we're the only ones who do this, but many times there's a stark difference, where you see that what some online classes are, where the teacher is not present. And it's a whole different experience for the student. There really is, they really feel alone.
Yeah,
And
I
we
think that's a really good point, Cheryl. Thanks.
so.
I had like a question, actually. For those of you who I don't know, I'm not a nurse. I teach Spanish. I know Jamie from curriculum committee and Cheryl, but yeah, so I teach Spanish, and which has been a struggle doing online, as I'm sure you can imagine. And especially with our student population, our general student population is much different than what most of you in the nursing are used to dealing with, I think. So it's been kind of a struggle in some ways. In some ways it's good. But one of the things I really struggled with was the determining the, you had in your slide, determining the appropriate rigor of the course and kind of the time that assignments are going to take to complete. Because I'm moving a lot of things that I would normally do in a classroom into, kind of an online setting. And that was kind of tough, trying to figure that out. I kind of did it on like a time model, thinking, okay, I normally would have 3 hours in a classroom, and then we expect students to spend 1 to 2 hours on average outside of class. So, I'm trying to think of it that way. And the learning platform that I'm using does do scaffolding learning, which is why I'm using it. And it actually has time estimates. So that really helped me for like all the different activities. It gave me some time estimates for all of them. So I could kind of plan out like, okay, this is realistic. But I do hear that it's a lot of homework. And I did have in my Spanish 2, a student ask if we could slow down a little. So I did. And it's a very small class, so I could do that very easily with, so I did slow down. But yeah, that was tough. So I don't know if anyone I know you said it's a process that you've gone through in nursing. But if anyone has any tips for that, for kind of determining, I don't know. I don't really know what I'm asking, but if anyone has any tips on that, that would be helpful. So thank you.
Alice, do you teach, when you're teaching Spanish, are you doing like a Zoom synchronous session?
Nope. I'm doing all asynchronous. I have videos posted, and they're not me doing the grammar explanations. I used ones from online that are much better quality than anything I would make. Yeah, so I'm not, and I offer my office hours as an opportunity for additional grammar explanation. I've had no one take me up on it.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Do students have the ability to go online and they can actually hear the pronunciation of words? I know
Yes. In my online workbook I'm using all online materials and that are actually really well designed. And yes, they can hear all of the words as part of the learning process, that they're supposed to play all the words to hear them. There are pronunciation activities where they record themselves as many times as they need to. So yeah, that's kind of the things that I've been doing.
Alice, this is Tracy. If I could jump in real quick,
Yeah.
and I'm not, this sounds so simplistic, but maybe simply just kind of asking them at this point, if they feel that the time given was enough time, or the suggested time for the assignments was enough. I do something at midterms, and I know some other professors are starting to do it too. It's just a basic midterm survey, our midpoint survey of the semester, and there's very specific questions I'm asking, but like things like, is the textbook useful? Are you finding the videos and other resources helpful? You know, the response time from the instructor. And in this case, you could add that specific question and just gather their feedback, because really this is the first time you're really teaching this online. And so I think the more information you can gather from them, the more helpful it will be for you moving forward. And then moving forward, one of the things that I do is when I introduce or I give a description of that week or that unit, I actually put the approximate time it should take them, because that really helps them to gauge moving, you know, forward in that week. They read the assignment, oh, it's going to take me an hour to 2 hours or whatever. So, but you can't maybe have that until you ask them. So
Yeah, that's.
hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you all for your comments. I love when we are sharing with one another, and you know, I've learned so much from interactions that I've had with faculty members, and sometimes I think we don't do enough of this. And that was another one of the reasons why I think we need more presentations where we could really share with one another like this. So thanks, Jamie, for the opportunity to do this.
Yes, thank you. I think we all learned a great deal from your time and your experience. Really appreciate it. So, all right, well, thank you for attending the presentation. Have a good day, everybody. Take care.